And hello, Nicole. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Eric?
I'm doing wonderful. It is a wonderful day. I am so excited to talk all things Big Brother with you in Memphis today.
I know. And listen, I found a gray hair in my hair today.
Are you going to blame Memphis for that too?
I'm blaming the man that evicted me, yes. Memphis is responsible for that one gray hair.
Okay. Let me let everyone know wherever you guys are watching this show, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, in the TV Co-app, make sure that you guys follow, like, and subscribe. It is a good way to make sure you get alerted every single time that we go live. Of course, you can also share the shows right now or share them when you're watching this back later. And Nicole, if they're watching it back later on a podcast provider, what should they do?
If you are listening to this back, please leave a 5-star rating and a positive review and share it with all of your loved ones, friends, family, neighbors, whomever.
Perfect. And of course, you can check out our website, hellofriendspod.com, for all of the show notes on this show. Everything that we talk about will be listed there, as well as all the places to watch it. And of course, if you have any questions, you can tweet us them with hashtag TVCoLive. That being said, Nicole, I will let you do the honors.
Quick question. Do you hear any feedback? Because I have a little bit of
feedback. I think maybe. Well, let's bring Memphis on. We might need Memphis to put his headset on, or turn his volume down, or maybe turn the volume, or maybe if you turn your phone volume down a little, that might fix it too.
Yes, I'll give him a minute with an awesome intro. So the intro is for the Newman to my Jerry Seinfeld. It is the man who, despite me getting him a blanket, still proceeded to evict me. But you know what? We got to get this podcast crack lacking, because rumor has it he has to be in bed by 10 p.m. It is the one, the only Memphis Garrett.
Memphis, how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I'm very happy to be with you guys. I got my wine. I'm in my office, in my home. I'm just, relaxing.
That's a big old glass of wine. I mean, I got my big old mug of tea, but
yes,
yeah. We do large pours around here.
It is the only way to do it. So, okay, Memphis. Maybe if you just try and turn your volume down on your phone a little bit, I think that's why they might be getting a little bit of a feedback.
Okay. Is that
on
better?
it. No.
All right. Let me get my headphones. We can do this.
Yeah.
So up while we sing waiting music. Dun dun dun
dun dun dun dun dun dun. This is the me.
How about that?
So much better.
So much better.
Okay.
So much better. So ready? You ready? Let's watch this. We love a live show. We love a live show. So we're just gonna pretend like ready. We just brought Memphis in again. Okay. Memphis, how are you doing?
What's up?
See, this is totally natural.
Yeah.
Nobody will know when they watch the edited version back.
I'm excited. I got a question for you guys off the bat. Like, is live podcast, is that normal? I feel like I've never been on a live podcast.
We are exceptional here, Memphis. Okay. We don't do ordinary. We do exceptional. You are right now live streaming to Twitch and Facebook and YouTube and
a bunch of stuff I don't have. Awesome.
Well, everywhere right now.
It's everywhere, but then we edit it after. Like we edit it and then we make the podcast version of it. We're a one-stop shop around here. But Memphis, people are here to hear about you.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
People are here to hear. Oh, are you not excited? What is your takeaway from this season of Big Brother? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, like we were kind of discussing, it's ultimately like I invested a lot, I think, into this season mentally to play the game, with a different capacity than I did the first time. The first time was a very fly by the seat of your pants, just kind of survive and not really know what kind of I was doing, and ultimately just trying to make it to the end and playing the game like I played this year. It really takes it out of you. And when you have a strong mental game and a strategy, it's tough on you. And I think it wears and you really, you create this world inside the game, and it takes over your brain, your mind. And I think when we were talking about transitioning back, it's been 2 weeks, and it's it's bizarre. It's weird. It's weird. And I think us coming out with no kind of finale or no like rap party. And it wasn't like, it was just basically like we were there and then they ripped you out and then sent us home the next day. It's a weird transition. It's really tough to explain if you haven't been on the show.
And I can only imagine. I was only there 2 weeks. Thanks a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I was only there 2 weeks, and it was a very strange post BB time, and I was only on last season. So I think for you guys who have been out of it for longer, it must be a very different time. I think All Stars became a very toxic environment. I think the fandom had their favorites. They had the ones they weren't rooting for, people they expected more from. And I think, like you said, it was weird to go from we're in this house to now we're not. And okay, we just go back to COVID life.
Yeah, so it's been a weird transition for me. And I mean, thank goodness for my son and just trying to be with him. And it kind of takes my mind off of it. But it's definitely been a weird thing. And I think obviously playing 11 years ago compared to now, there's a totally different world, which obviously you're used to. But for me, it's been kind of a whirlwind of weird messages and just random stuff. And ultimately, you know, people are really invested in the game, which I do think is cool that fans are invested in something like this. But I think where the lines get blurred a little bit is the fact that this is a game, and and ultimately what I've seen is like people take it way too seriously. And I think even the contestants, and maybe you can, you know, touch on this too, is like, there's some contestants that go in the house that leave and get evicted that really have a tough time with being evicted and really can't swallow it. And I think it has something, my theory is it has something to do that, at least the people that I've spoke to that feel like this, is that they, in their mind, thought that they were going to win without a matter of, like, they were matter of fact, like, I'm going to win. And then when they didn't, it was a crushing kind of soul blow. And like, for me, it was like always like, you have to think like you can win, but you have to assume that you're not going to win.
And that's exactly the thing I've said. A lot of us have the only experience of making it to the final three, of making it to finale night. So I think it was a blow to a lot of our egos to be like, wait, me? I make it to finale night. What do you mean I'm leaving pre-jury? What do you mean I'm leaving jury? So I think it being an all-star group, a lot of people, it was humbling, if not, you know, kind of hurtful to go out early. I think a lot of people were shocked by how much it affected them.
Yeah, and I can't stress this enough when I try to explain the game to people, is the idea that it's really tough. And it's not an easy game, and it's it was a lot easier when you're playing with newbies than it is all stars, right? So it's like, I kind of like in my first season, you feel like, okay, you kind of see like, okay, these like kind of half of this house, they're gonna make it kind of pretty far, and then like the rest will kind of be the pawns and the people that kind of like go and get out. But in this season, it wasn't like that. It was very like, everyone, you know, had to fend for themselves in regards to, there wasn't like an easy target. There weren't easy targets. Everyone was very good at the game, and it kind of chopped it up to be a very bizarre season because of that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, there are a lot of people. I see Pam B over on YouTube says, I loved your reunion video with River. So people, I think it definitely is weird. For me, it was weird seeing you with, you know, your child, because I saw you in the game as this very just like, I'm playing a game and I'm making these moves and I'm doing them non-emotionally, which, by the way, I think is the way you have to play Big Brother if you want to win. I don't think you can be an emotional player. So it was great to see that, you know, that side of you in the game. But I also have another question from YouTube, which I think is quite appropriate. And it's from Mugger. And they want to know, Memphis, you are the person who can probably best answer this. Which of the Nicoles is the best Nicole?
Oh, that's not appropriate.
I mean, I think both Nicoles are amazing. And to be honest with you, like with this all-star cast, like everyone was so good, and they were a threat and to each its own. And I think that's something that doesn't, it's tough to say, like, just because you put it this way, just because you get to the end of the game, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the best player. And if you get booted first, it doesn't necessarily mean you're the worst player. And I think that holds truth because people that are threats, and it's kind of how the cards fall. Like if the cards would have fell one comp differently, like towards the end, then I feel like I could have been sitting there. And it's like, if you look at each kind of like different scenario, and that's kind of how this game is, it's a lot of damn luck, to be honest with you. I cannot chop it up to say it's all strategy and in alliance. It's not. It's really a lot of luck. And
can I ask you, because I do believe you to be a very straight shooter.
Yeah. For sure.
Did you watch BB21? Did you watch my season? Because I got the vibe that you had no idea who me and David were.
I did watch it. I did watch it.
Really?
I didn't watch the whole thing, and I haven't watched the entire season of a season since probably 14, but I do watch them, meaning I can't watch every episode. I'm not that invested in it, but I definitely watch like the live shows. I definitely watch. I keep updates. But yeah, I definitely I watched your guys' season.
Okay.
So I was aware of you, and that was the biggest thing with David is like I watched everyone really to a certain extent, and with David, that's why I always looked at him such a wild card, which I just felt he was a wild card because the things that came out of his mouth were always like they were just so all over the place. But ultimately, I never seen him play, and he was one person. You know, when you get 2 weeks to watch someone, that's not enough. So. For me, he was always a wild card because he was the only person in the house that I'd never seen play the game, you know? So you can't read a person when you haven't seen them play, you know what I mean? Right. So I found that as always like a very threatening thing for my game personally.
We're going to talk about David, but I want to get to the first question because you were kind of talking about it before. Destiny's, you got this from a ton of people, but Destiny says, how did you decide who you wanted to be in the committee with? And in hindsight, would you have swapped anyone out for somebody else?
When I started like picking the committee people, like it was based on a couple things. It was one of the biggest thing was people that I could basically manipulate the easiest, meaning that I could have a little bit of control over what was done. And for me to decide that that's a very like tough thing to do because I'm like, okay, I don't personally know these people. I can only take of like basic interactions of how I think I can maybe manipulate the way they are. I mean, I was going down the route to actually add Bailey to the committee and not Nicole.
Wow.
And I don't know if they put that on the episode or not, but it was a conversation that I had with, I think Cody at first, and obviously Cody was probably like, no, Nicole's better, obviously, in his mind, you know, that. But it was more, the reason that I didn't push harder was it was the Devon thing. It was like, I just felt in the house, they were just like two peas in a pod when it came to their relationship. And I knew I couldn't get one without the other. And I knew that Devon was uncontrollable, meaning there's no way in hell I'm going to manipulate Devon. You know what I mean?
No.
That's true.
So, and I told her that to her face in jury house, and she's like, "Well, damn straight." You know, I'm like, "Yeah, I know." I'm like, and I love Devon, and like it's just one of those things where that's where we kind of I started kind of like putting people together and saying, okay, this person, and the other thing that that I was trying to do was get people that like necessarily weren't hanging out that much. And they weren't like always hanging. And sure enough, like as the weeks progressed, you had this like they just started hanging out when it came to Tyler, Nicole, Danny, and Cody. And I even got onto them a couple of times. I was like, guys, you guys have got to like spread out. Like you're gonna.
They were very obvious for.
Yeah, and that kind of pissed me off a little bit because I was like, guys, the whole point of this thing is so we're not seen together and all in the same room, and so. And people definitely started seeing that. So, you know, it's tough. It's tough to read people that quickly and decide on who you think is the best kind of fit for you, for myself. And that's kind of what ended up sticking, you know. But it was tough. It was a tough thing to form too, because it was like I tried to do it like by telephone, which was so I'd like talk to one and be like, "All right, what do you think about this person? This person?" Then I'd go to another person and be like, "What do you think about this person?" I started to get confused. I'm like, "Damn, did I say that person? Did I say this person?" I was like, at one point, I was totally all over the place.
And you discussed like, preparing preseason, whereas like, your first time on, you kind of went off the seat of your pants. This time you had a plan. Was it your plan walking in like, I want a 6-person alliance with this many males, this many females? You had it ready to go.
I had that. I wanted to add 5 people plus myself. I was going to call it the committee. I had it written down. It was going to be a majority of all new age players. And when I say just new age, I mean, younger than me in regards to their game. And that's what I was looking for, because I knew the game had changed so much and I've seen it change. And I'm like, I can't, like, there's no way that you're going to be able to play this old school game where you're like a couple, alliance, 2-person alliance isn't going to be able to run this house. And that's how I thought. And I had that plan all along for sure. So,
well, I want to ask you, I mean, I'm sure now, being out of the house, you have heard what a lot of the conversation was on social media, that a lot of fans felt like there was pre-gaming, preseason alliances. How did Cody know who you were and not Keish? Like all of those things. What do you want to say about that? Like, what is your response to the people who feel that when they were watching, there had to have been a preseason alliance? How did you guys just all fall together?
Well, there definitely wasn't a preseason alliance. I mean, I think I talked to Tyler once at like a charity event, and Nicole, I don't think I've ever even met outside of the house. Danny, I've known for years. Danny, my ex-wife, actually put on her and Dom's wedding. I've known Danny. Wow. But I didn't, like, we don't, continue to conversate. And let's be honest, guys, I was an alternate. So keep that in mind. So I found out that I was going on the show 4 days before we went on the show. So I didn't have any idea.
Which I don't understand. How did you prepare your life for when you disappeared? How did you prepare for being gone?
I was still in sequester for the 2 weeks. I was just as an alternate, and the chance of me going on was, in my mind, was pretty slim. They were like, "Hey, come out to LA 2 weeks. You're a backup just in case some COVID stuff goes down." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, whatever." And I went, and then basically 4 days before we got on the show, I got a call, and they were like, "Hey," or they called the sequester manager, and they're like, "Hey, they want to talk to you." And they're like, "Hey, you're going to go on." And I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
So it was kind of intense, but from that, from people thinking like, I mean, put that in context. Like, I didn't even know who was going to be on the show. I didn't know even I was going to be on the show. So for me to have some like pre-aligned alliance for me, it was out of the question. But it's funny because me and Cody, the first episode, like Julie asked, like we're standing next to each other, and she's like, "Okay, you got the Renegades and you got the Hitman. Like, who's the best?" Like, so I mean, two-person alliances that made an impact in Big Brother history are sitting right there. When someone says that, like Julie, it's like it kind of triggered in our heads. At least my head. I was like, "All right, this is someone that obviously I can get down with." Yeah, so it's like it kind of just happened in that way. I was just kind of like, "Oh, okay, maybe Julie's got a good idea here."
Right. I mean, I see a lot of people asking, Memphis, please help me, help a brother out with this one.
Yeah.
A lot of people asking, so are you saying that you didn't include Nicole A in the committee because you didn't feel you could manipulate her?
I don't really know. I don't really know why I didn't include Nicole A. I didn't have a reason not to include someone for each person. That's for sure.
Okay. I need to sit on that for a moment.
She's going to sit on that one. Memphis, we were looking for, I made a horrible mistake so that when she brings it up to me 19 more times.
It was supposed to be, it was the big error of my game. Everything went south because of that.
Right. That's what we were looking
But in regard to strategy, I see Lake Effect Plans in the TV Co chat asking, was going to bed early a strategy, or is that just
I don't, well, by the way, just to keep clear, I don't go to bed early. I'm actually pretty I usually don't go to bed before midnight here. And even when I have my son, I don't go to bed before midnight. Normally I'm out even past that. For me, the house got really weird and really bizarre for me to kind of get a good rhythm. In my real life, I'm constantly on the move and going. I have a lot going on. And for me, I had to get a rhythm. I had to get like something. That was just a schedule thing. I was like, I need to like make myself go to bed. So I wake up and then I do my coffee and then I do breakfast. It was just like more of like a routine thing. I'm like, I can't just wing it because I started to get kind of nuts and like it felt really weird to me, you know, being in there. So for me, it's like I just needed that time to be like, okay, I'm going to try to go to bed at this time. And that was it. Yeah. And in that house, it plays tricks on your brain.
Which
big time,
I think that kind of helped you in a lot of dynamics.
It
you know,
did.
they would show a lot of an argument happening and there you are sleeping, or drama being stirred up and there you are sleeping. So I think it kind of is what led to a lot of people not questioning you and not targeting you. One thing I can give you credit for is every pre-juror that left was like, wait, Memphis is in the Alliance? I thought the guy was sleeping. I thought he had no. So like half the cast was very shocked that you had a hand in some pots.
Don't you think, like, this is one thing that came to my mind this season? It's like, to play the game socially and like actually play and strategize and stuff like that, like, you don't need 24 hours in a day. You know what I mean? You don't need to be playing that much. Like, there's like, you could probably define it down to like 6 hours of the day. I'm going to talk, I'm going to strategize, and not even that, probably a few hours. So for me, it was like almost like going to bed probably helped me, you know, like you said. I mean, I think my mom always told me like nothing ever good happens after midnight. So we'll just push that back to 10.
But I think it also is more so like personality type and type of person. I think if like a me or a Kevin goes to bed early, it's more so like, oh, they can't handle this, they don't care. Whereas you, it's like, oh, well, he's like alpha male, he's doing his thing, we don't question him.
Yeah,
so I think
yeah, I mean, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, that's all stuff that like you guys kind of go through, and I'm kind of like, just whatever, I'm gonna go to bed.
I think that is the difference. I think the way you played the game, like Nicole said, kept you out of a lot of drama, and that really was great. And I think that is a smart. It is a good plan that can work in the house, but obviously, you know, it depends on the other personalities you're in the house with. If people don't respond well to that and always want to blame you for not being around or blame you for not being there.
I mean, I can kind of see, I didn't really think about that when I was doing it, but I could totally see that happening, really. Like, I could see people being like, oh, this person goes to bed every night. And like, what are they doing? They're not playing. You know, I could totally see that. I didn't think about that when I was doing it, but it's a good way to look at it for sure.
I mean, in an old school versus new school dynamic, which I feel a lot of people saw this All-Star season, it probably is a good strategy because new school just likes to blindside on eviction day. So, like, you're really not missing anything. You just got to get your game in.
Yeah,
right
I mean,
before.
I think it worked, and I think you guys are right. I mean, I think it definitely probably it helped my game for sure, just not being up and available for people, you know, to just like chat and like, you know, throw different ideas. It probably kept me probably safe and just out of harm's way for a little bit. But yeah, it's a funny. I wouldn't necessarily recommend everyone doing that, but in the future. But
all right, so I want to talk about, obviously, one of the bigger storylines for you this season. Well, not necessarily storyline on the show, more what Twitter and a lot has been talking about. What do you want to say to people who feel like you just kept targeting David over and over and over every week? It is like a lot of the questions, a lot of the comments. It did seem like there was no basis in you targeting him or your rivalry with him.
My basis for originally targeting him was basically I'd never seen him play. He was the only player in the entire house that didn't play, that basically played 2 weeks really quick. Everyone else in the house I've watched. I've seen him interact with people. I've seen him in the DR. I've seen kind of how they think. He was the only person that I had never seen play. So for me, like, that's a super wild card. And if I can't, you know, have any insight of you, like, that's really tough. It's like watching film, you know, when you're playing football or basketball. It's like you have to have some basis of like what people do. And when he came in the house, I'm like, whoa, who's this dude? Like, basically, like, I knew of him, but I literally never seen him play. So it was really tough for me to wrap my head around. And okay, so you guys realize like once you kind of put someone on the block, like you're like, okay, I'm trying to find a reason to put people on the block and not try to make it big. Like you want to find some reason because you just don't want to say, hey, this is it. You want to find a reason. So when I put him and Nicole up on the block, it was because I had the easiest reason to do it. I didn't fabricate a reason. I just was like, all right, this is the easiest reason. So here you go. With David, first of all, I would have liked David to go the first week. That wasn't my intention for Nicole to go home, and I didn't have anything to do with that. I didn't vote her. I didn't vote her out. The house voted her out. She doesn't want to believe that. So I'm a big fan of the thought process of the HOH doesn't get credit for sending people home. It's the house that gets the credit. And a lot of people don't think like that, but I tend to. So with David, so the fact that he stayed, my thought was like this, is like, I already pissed him off. I already put him on the block once. At this point, why am I going to put someone else up on the block? Or why am I going to try to put another target on someone else? So it just became, for me, it was like an easy way to say, okay, this is a guy, at this point, he's probably going to put me up and I'm going to put him up. So screw it. Might as well keep the ball rolling. And I still always thought he was a threat because he was a wild card. I couldn't get a read on him. And when you watch him in the season, I mean, the things that he did were crazy. I was like, this guy's all over the place. Like every little thing, I was like, dude, I can't get a beat on this guy.
But now, did you?
There was no Will Ill like between me and him, and that was the funniest part about like when people and I read all this stuff, and I'm like, man, people are reading way too into this. Like I looked at David as like my fraternity brother, like a pledge brother, like someone that like, look, I'm gonna bust your balls because you're a newbie and a rookie. And at the end of the day, through it all, like we're going to be friends. In the jury house, we hung out constantly. We watched movies together. We chilled. Like, we we did everything. So it's just funny how people want to, put a narrative to something. And that's fine. Like, look, I'm not here to, change people's mind. I have no problem being the bad guy. I'm cool with that. Whatever. Do whatever you want. I'm not like that. I'm not a bad guy. And ultimately, me and David have a good relationship when I left the show, and a very straightforward relationship. And I told him, I was like, look, man, and through the season, even like the stuff that they're like, I'm bullying him. I'm like, dude, I'm treating like this guy, like he's my fraternity brother, like my player, like a basketball, like he's on my team. Like we're going to bust each other's balls and we're going to give each other a hard time. But it's all love, man. It's not that serious. I promise.
I mean, I will say this. I always try, like postseason, I always say, I think issues that happen in the game are between the players, even as someone that talks about this game. I will say we did just have David on the last show, and he also echoed those same sentiments, that there was no ill will, that there was no hard feelings between both of you. So like for me, then I just believe both of you. If both of you are telling me that it's fine and saying that there are no issues and that's how it was, then that's
kind of like when you play that rival basketball player, rival teammate, or rival person like that you compete with. Like it's like you have a respect. There's a respect. Like we're gonna go at each other and we're gonna try to get each other out, and like we're gonna play the game. But ultimately, when the game is over, I'm gonna shake your hand. I'm gonna pat you on the ass and be like, next time, son of a bitch, next time. You know what I mean? Like that's what it's about. I don't like, and that's where it gets misconstrued, is like this is a game, and like, and it's fun. Like it's kind of fun. Like I don't know. Like there was no ill will with me and David, and I thought it was so bizarre how people like put that into a context of like I was bullying him, and I'm like, what are you talking? He's a 30-year-old man. Like I don't like. There's no bullying involved. Like we were just basically rivals, and that's what happened. Like we chopped it up into that. So
that's what I will say, like having lived with it, and I did see it as more like abrasive and aggressive, but having spoken to David postseason, and David said like, oh no, things lightened up in jury, we were good. And hearing you say it, I'm like, okay, it's ultimately between you two. You two feel that things are lightened up and good. And I think that's where people should get it straight from the source. Obviously you two are okay. The narrative.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we're totally good. And like, even in the game, like, it's not like, when I called him out everyone thought so harshly when I called him out in the HOH, and in my mind, like, and this just goes to show you who I am. I'm like, I thought it was funny. I was like, all right, it's on, dude. I'm going after you. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like, it's not supposed to be that serious, guys. It's like, it's not supposed to be taken so literal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I get it.
100%. We're getting this question a lot from a ton of people as well. I'm going to take it from T. Hath wants to know, what advice did you get from Dan before going into the game? I'm just leaving it there. What advice did you get from Dan going into the game? And a lot of people have asked this, obviously. Yeah. Did you talk to him? I
did talk to Dan. I actually think Dan was probably one of the biggest reasons I probably got at least put into, into sequester. I think Dan had a big part of that, just putting my name out there. But ultimately, I talked to Dan and I had like this crazy plan of like, I was like, I don't know. I wrote it all down. And it was like this crazy nutso plan of like doing all these like crazy schemes and tricking people and lying to people and all this madness. And after like 10 minutes of talking, he goes, what have you been smoking first? And he goes, don't do any of that. Just do you and play the game that you know how to play. There's a reason that you made it to the final two the first time. Be yourself. Be who you are. And he goes, I promise you will do well. And so that's the advice that he gave me. So, and I took it to heart. So
in regard to like the strategy that you entered with for like the committee, did you also know down the line you wanted to create like 2 parallel wise guys? Did you know, oh, this is a good idea from the start? Or is it something you came up with like in the house?
I was trying to figure, it wasn't something, I had the idea and I wrote it down, but I didn't like fine tune it until I got in the house because I really wasn't sure how it was going to work. I was like, how do I protect myself to make sure I make it to the final 3? And I knew once the committee, imploded, like I was going to have to do something and basically hedge my bet. And that's when I came up with the wise guy thought, is like this overlapping thing where no matter which way it slides, I would be protected. Obviously, I didn't know Enzo would be, the chirping bird. But at the end of the day,
Jersey guys talk. They're both Jersey boys. Why would they not compare?
But I don't. I think like ultimately, I still think it's a good plan. But ultimately, it didn't end up working out. But I was just trying to protect my game as far as possible, as far as which way it would slide. So that's kind of what I came up with it.
Now, kind of, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we hit on all of the main things that we're getting the most questions about. But kind of towards the end of your game, a lot of us watching felt like we saw that maybe there might be some feelings developing for Christmas, maybe?
I'm just going to keep drinking this.
Oh, you're just going to keep drinking. Okay.
Are you feeling the holiday spirit?
Is Christmas still your favorite time of the year?
That's funny. Very clever. Look, me and Christmas got to know each other really well. And, we have similar lives. And ultimately, we have a very strong relationship and friendship. And ultimately, that's kind of what you saw on camera. We got really close and became really good friends. And I know people have their, narrative that they want to add to it because everyone wants a good story and a good showmance. But, we kept it, we kept it PG for everyone. And ultimately, like, it's one of those things, like when you're in the house for that long, you kind of just find someone that you can really get along with and talk to. And it's tough to like, not hang out with that person when you're just stuck in there for 24 hours a day. So I think that's what people saw, and they saw us naturally just become friends. And, Christmas is an awesome, awesome woman. And, I wish her the best for sure.
So official status right now, you and Christmas are friends.
Yes.
Okay. We can put that one to bed. Great. Okay. Go ahead, Nicole. Sorry.
And what was it like being nominated next to her? Obviously that was the time you went home and you were pretty shocked to go home. What was it like sitting next to her? Were you hell bent? Like, there's no way they're sending me out next to her.
I was in a good seat. I thought I was in a good place with just my relationship with Enzo and Cody. But it's really tough when you win comps and you're sitting there and we did the same thing with Tyler. It's like, you got to get rid of him. Like it was like, I was blindsided because I thought I had a good enough rapport with them. But ultimately, I told Cody when he walked down to the door, when he won, I grabbed him and I gave him a hug. And I was like, you deserve this. You deserve this win. And you earned it. And I go, just so we're clear, like, I would have fucking took you out too. So.
Yeah. And going based on what you previously said, you credit Cody and Enzo with evicting you more so than Nicole.
100%.
Really?
And yeah. And because that, I mean, they had the power and they could have easily flipped it if they wanted to. And I haven't watched exactly what happened, but I would bet that they were like, Memphis could win, you know, this thing, you know, and win it out or win a couple comps at the end. So, and Cody looked at me, he goes, I knew it. And I'm like, dude, don't feel bad. Cause you know, you always think that like, he might have like like he might think that I have some like harsh will to him. And I'm like, dude, I would have done the same thing if you would have been on the block.
Right.
So I respect that as a player for sure. And it's tough to do that. It's really tough because you start becoming like me and Cody are friends. And it's like, ultimately it's tough to be able to pull that trigger when you're like, go. Because your mind starts playing tricks on you and you're like, oh, do I want to be loyal or do I want to win the game?
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's a bold move when you make the decision to win the game. So,
right.
Absolutely.
I want to ask one more, and then I think we're pretty much out of the controversial Memphis topics. Although I mean, I will say that this is serious, and I don't know what you have seen postseason of this, if you've seen any of the clips about it, but obviously the conversation about Ian in the key room with Nicole and Danny, you know, Nicole.
I know what I said, so obviously I know what went down, and you know, all I can say is, you know, I talked to Ian and I told him after the show in the jury house what went down, and I told him, look, it didn't come from a level of hate, it didn't come from a level of anything, you know, that was like ill will. It was a moment that, you know, I look back and regret, you know, ultimately. Making fun of that, you know, his soothing mechanism for when he gets nervous. And you know, I regret it. And I told him, I go, look, just know that, like, you know, I make fun of all the guys. I make fun of Enzo and his, you know, the way he eats and this and that. And look, maybe it's a super sensitive subject for a lot of people. And, you know, and that's it. And I told him, I go, look, man, I didn't mean it in a bad way. And it came off really bad. And, you know, and that was it. And ultimately, look, I mean, I treat Ian like I treat every other person. You know, I don't think he's autistic or whatever he might be on the spectrum. I was not aware that he's on the spectrum. So for me, it's like he was doing this. I made fun of him for doing that. And, you know, ultimately, now that I found out that he is, or I'm not really sure if he's diagnosed or not, I'm not really sure. But ultimately, I had a conversation with Ian and I chopped it up with him, and it is what it is. And, you know, I will tell you, you know, which I think is something that I wasn't sure I was going to talk about, but I will, is the amount of emails and text and bad reviews of my restaurants and DMs, and the context of those messages were some shit that I've never seen in my life. And it has so much hatred to them. I'm frightened for like the people out there, really. Like, I've never gotten so many death threats of like, you should fucking die, you fucking bigoted, fucking racist piece of shit. I hope your son is dead. I hope you fucking die of fucking AIDS. I hope you get hit by a fucking train. I'm like reading this stuff and I'm like, okay, me making fun of Ian, I apologize. And I talked to Ian about it. But the fact that like people think like that, I would not, you know, for me, like, I can't even imagine what goes on in people's minds to like write something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it definitely shed some light on me of like, holy hell, like like I don't know. It definitely was like pretty frightening that people have thoughts like that.
I mean, I don't want to spend like a lot of time on this because I don't think we could even get into what needs to be done on this topic. I will just say, I think people take it personally because they might know someone it affects. And I mean, you just said that you don't really know a lot about it. I say that with respect to you. I think you have the opportunity to educate yourself on it more. And I think if you spoke out about your experience on it and how you didn't understand it, and if Ian did that with you, even I think that you guys have the ability to take the situation that I think is probably common for a lot of people. I think a lot of people were in your situation where they don't understand what it is to be autistic or, on the spectrum. And they related to you in that moment. And then other people related to Ian. And to have you guys speak out on what it's like and educating people on it and even being educated yourself on it, I just think you guys can do a lot of good now after the fact. And obviously, yes, Nicole and I got death threats all the time too in the beginning of the season. It was great. So that's never fun either, and we get it. But I mean, those two issues, it's like cause and effect. But bottom line is, I think you guys could do a lot of good raising awareness for it if you chose to.
I mean, I think having that conversation with Ian for sure and talking to him a little bit more in depth about it and how he felt. I think with Ian, it's like he didn't want to be treated differently. Ultimately, and like he doesn't want to be treated any different than anyone else. Living with someone that had or does what he does is also another thing that like is eye-opening for sure. And watching him do what the mechanism that he does, and look, that's a conversation that me and Ian need to have.
Right.
Yes.
And again, like in context, like obviously I look back and like, I should have definitely not have made fun of Ian.
Right.
But
or
at the
anyone.
same, yeah. Or
yeah.
I mean, I can make fun of Enzo and his fucking feet. I will, to his face and behind his back.
Well, I think we all know what's like acceptable. I mean, look, we do comedic podcasts, so I think we all get like what it is funny enough. So I think I just hope that you guys work it out. Most importantly, have you spoken to Ian about it postseason?
Like since he's seen it in the jury house, and I haven't spoken to him since. No.
Okay. I was just wondering because I forget what Ian said when he was on the show about it. So I don't want to say that he was okay or not okay. I forget what he said. But go ahead, Nicole. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to put a little bow tie on that and take it from Moonstar in the TV Co chat, who said, Memphis, I just hope that you educate yourself and learn from this. And like Eric was saying, you definitely have the platform, whether it's with Ian or just yourself, to put out informational things or talk about your experience, talk about what you learned, to also inform, the people that do follow you and the people that look up to you and whatnot. In this way, you learned, and those that follow you can learn, because it is something that a lot of people are not exposed to and they don't understand. And when you don't understand, you do and say things that are not appropriate.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you 100%.
Now, most importantly, I think the most important question that we have from everyone, I'm going to take it from definitely not Nicole, is what could Nicole have done to have saved herself? Is there any, could she have thrown an Ian under the bus and said, Memphis?
No, Ian was safe.
Right, Ian was safe. That's right. Ian was safe. Ian was safe. That's right.
I think
you broke the tie in my favor.
What?
Would you have broken the tie in my favor?
I'm not sure, actually. It's a tough thing to say. But I will tell you this, like, look, as far as me going after David, like, that was my initial thought. So that was my target. And when the House decided not to do that, and they looked at you as one of Janelle's threats, unfortunately, the House decided that wasn't my goal. And it wasn't like, obviously I went after David 3-4 times. So obviously that was my goal. So it wasn't you. You just happened to, the House had a different decision, had a different idea. So, and that's what the tough thing about the putting people up. It's like, you might think one thing, and then ultimately it means the same thing with Davon and Cody. I mean, Davon and Kevin, it's like I wanted David to go. My plan was to backdoor David, and ultimately that changed because the House and Tyler decided not to do that. And it's like, as the HOH, it's like, look, sometimes you have a plan, it doesn't always go out. And I think that's what happened with you too. It's like that wasn't the ideal situation for me either, because I was good with Janelle, I'm good with Kaser, and whether you were voting in their favor or hanging out with them or being on that team still was beneficial to me. So it didn't didn't make sense for me. So
well, that's interesting. Like what I want to ask you about, because you did have the committee, which I didn't know about, but in my brain, you were with like Janelle, Kaser, Keisha. Keisha went home. Janelle and Kaser kind of took me under their wing. So I was like, all right, I am the new Keisha. We are the new 4, even though you and I barely spoke. I was like, okay. And I guess a part of me, I kind of wonder, did you ever think of like throwing an HOH, since you were kind of in a good spot where the Janelle, Kaser, me wouldn't touch you, where the committee wouldn't touch you? And I don't think a lot of people were looking at you at that point.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you think about throwing comps and stuff and throwing HOHs, but this season, like, my goal was not to do that. I was trying to build a resume towards the end of the game, like through the game. So, like, if I got to the end, that they would have that resume of winning comps. And I think this season I wasn't going to do that. So no matter what. So even though I felt like I was in a good place, I wasn't going to take that risk. I mean, it even went down to when I left, like the pumpkin comp was super important, and I wasn't able to win. Christmas wasn't able to win, and that changed the outcome of the end of the game for sure. And it would have changed completely if it would have been different. So I think ultimately it's just kind of like, those comps are crazy. Like, they're just so weird and random and such a crapshoot sometimes. So yeah. But I will tell you, it was not my intention to send you home, and that was not the plan. And I would have much rather David go home. And he knows that. I mean, obviously, I feel like everyone knows that.
My favorite part was watching you get the Nicole that I get in real life every day, of like when she like did her whole eviction speech, and then like you could tell there was tension. Nicole's like, "No, we're hugging. We're hugging right now."
Yeah, for sure. Because I was like, I chopped it up to like being like, okay, no hugs, no, none of that, and sure enough, she was like. No,
I'm a very firm believer, the same way you were, even though the wise guys evicted you, you have to separate the two. You have, as pissed off as you might be in that game and frustrated, because personally, like, I knew that wasn't a smart move for your personal game, so like you're frustrated, but then once you're evicted, you're just like, and I go back to real life. And real life,
for sure.
Hugs everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to win, going out second is great.
Right.
Do you remember our conversation outside? It was obviously the week I was on the block, where I thought I saw a star in the sky.
Yeah, and I said, no, it was a satellite. What was it really?
Like, no, Memphis, it's a star. And then it disappeared.
Yeah.
So I had to do some quick damage control and tell a story about how stars disappear when you tell wishes. And then the fucking light came back and made me look like a big doofus. And I was like, this guy's going to fix me because he's going to think I'm so stupid. I was so mad.
Did you end up finding the satellite? Like, did you look it up? Like, when you got home and you're like,
I did not. I don't even know where I did.
Yeah.
No, we were
space station.
We were too busy watching Big Brother when it aired. I know a lot of people were asking, did Memphis see Nicole's reaction to the comic episode? Did you?
Did I see Nicole's reaction?
Yeah.
I don't know what they put on there, but I'm.
Oh no! It's in real life. I could do a reenactment for you because we can't play the video here now. Basically, I believe you beat her in the comic. The
luxury comp
in the battle.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
Nicole, we'll send you the video. But Nicole first came out and said, "Oh no, Memphis beat me again. I'll tell him where he can shove that fist. Die. Why isn't Memphis dying?" It was my ringtone for a good time. And she's like, "I'm calling production." And then immediately she followed it with another video that was like, "I'm sorry, guys. I just get riled up sometimes. I'm obviously not calling production."
Watching a sports game, like you're screaming at the other team, like you're so mad, and like you're threatening them, and then the game's over, and you're like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." But I did say some not so nice things, Memphis. So I'm sorry, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
You have to see it. It is hysterical. I think a lot of people thought that Nicole was being serious during it, which was honestly my favorite part. And I almost hate to ruin it, but you have to watch it because it is very funny.
Up.
Okay, I have to watch that for sure.
But what did you think of your comic this season?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. I loved it. I was very happy with my
comic. Nicole the luxury comp.
I know. Chris told me like after, she's like, I have to tell you this. I have to tell you. She was so upset that she didn't pick me, or she was like, I know, like, don't be mad at me. I'm like, why the hell do you think I would be mad at you for not picking me on the luxury comp? I'm like, I thought that was pretty funny.
Really bad about it.
I'm like, I don't think you should feel bad. You missed out on winning 10 grand. So I don't really know. I mean, that's how you should feel bad. Don't feel bad about me. Feel bad that you didn't win 10 grand.
Of course, we've been asking everybody that has come in. I'm going to take it from SP wants to know, would you have voted for Enzo if he cut Cody for final two? Or a lot of people were just wondering if any of your voting would have been different, or would Cody have always gotten your vote in the end?
I think if Cody was up against Nicole or Enzo, I think he would have got my vote 100%.
Okay.
Just because his resume, Nicole and Enzo, it would have been very tough. Really tough. I think it would have been a very tough. Enzo played a great game, but for Nicole to get to the end, after winning already, I think that is very, very difficult. So that would have been a tough thing. And I always said that even in the jury house, I was like, the fact that Nicole's even there is very, it's very tough and it's very impressive. So it would have been a tough call for sure.
And also, you got a ton of questions from a lot of people wanting to know, what was it about Janelle and Kaser that made you not want to work with them? Like, obviously, early on, it was very much that side of the house versus you guys.
Look, I think the biggest thing with Janelle and Kaser, which I saw, and I keep in mind, I've never played the game with them. They came out of day one, firing, like missiles. You know what I mean? Just so aggressive. And I say aggressive, just a lot of talk, a lot of good game, really, really quick. And for me, that's not really my MO. I'm more like, hey, survival, strategy, low, don't talk too much type, about what your plan is. But I feel like they were just aggressively talking about the game, off the bat. And I just thought it was I've had many conversations, or I had many conversations with Kaser. I'm like, dude, just blend in, just chill. Because I wanted to see Kaser go. I wanted to see Kaser go far. And I liked Kaser. I do like Kaser. I think he's a great guy, and I love talking to him, and I love spending time with him. So I didn't want to see him go home. But I'm like, dude, you just need to chill. Because he was just very, very oh, we got to do this and this and this. And I'm like, dude, just blend in for a minute, just a week, just take off a week. And they were just super aggressive. And I think when they do that, or when people do that in the game, you become the target automatically. I don't think there's any way you cannot become the target. It's almost like they're trying to make the game, push the game along. But when people push too hard, they become the target. It happened to me in my first season. It was this guy, Brian, who's actually one of my good friends now, he basically was he wanted me out of the house, and he was aggressively pushing everyone to get me out. And it backfired, and he went home because people are like, whoa, why are you why are you so aggressive? And that kind of gameplay, I think, makes people uneasy. So that's what I felt.
What about Keisha? Because I know, me entering the house, I didn't have a final two with David, but I feel like we had an unspoken understanding, okay, we're the duo from last season. Did you had Keisha stayed? Did you feel like you had an unspoken, okay, it's me and her till the end, or were you kind of different?
Not at all, actually.
Wow.
I always thought when I saw Keisha, it was that she would be a friendly, but ultimately she was not part of my game.
Wow.
Because I just thought people would assume that. And I'm like, why do I want to assume? Why do I want to give some? It's the same Janelle and Kaser. It's I don't want people to assume that we're together. I don't want people, even if we weren't, I'm like, people are going to assume that. And all of a sudden we're both going to end up on the block. Right. So my thought was go the other way completely. So, which I'm sure she got kind of butthurt about it. I bet. I heard she did. I don't know. I haven't talked to her, but ultimately, it's like, look, that was a strategy of mine. I'm like, I don't need someone next to me that people think that we already have something together, even though we didn't. Yeah. So, for me, I wasn't about to go to bat for her. I was just trying to go the opposite way.
Which I think is what, again, ended up helping you, because in at least my brain, I was like, all right, he is with Keisha. And then Keisha went home and you really weren't affected by it. And I'm like, oh, I guess he's not. And then I'm like, okay, he's with Janelle and Kaser and I'm with them. And then you nominated me and I'm like, I guess he's not. So I think the assumption came in and I was like, okay, he's with nobody. Like, he's just doing his Memphis thing, you know? Yeah. And then to come out and hear you and Christmas were the two people I was most shocked about. Like, I knew about the four because they were always hanging out. But you and Christmas, I was like, damn, like they were a part of this. And they did a good job at least being singular. And I think you pulled that off very well.
Yeah, and I think that's something, like, just for people that are going to play the game in the future, it's like that's something to take note to. I think it's important that, and it's tough in there because you want to hang out with people that you like and you want to be have an alliance with people that you like, but ultimately it's not the best strategy. And I think there's layers to this game, and it's the first 6 weeks, the first half of the game is all survival. I mean, it really is. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not like this grand plan. The committee worked. But the committee worked because it was lucky to win HOHs. That was it. If it would have won it, if that would have flipped that 1 week, Kaser almost won that comp. Like the house would have flipped. Like it would have just been.
And listen, I'll be honest with you. Like that bicep veto, like I could have beaten you in a heartbeat. Like I but I was like, you know what? Let these guys feel good about themselves. Like, I'm just going to drop this right away. Because, like, these, like, arms, they got this. So I expect to let you guys have it,
I figured. That's what I thought. I appreciate that.
Any sense that I was that big. That's why I get it.
I know.
100%.
I know that we are almost running out of time, and we're going to try and throw a few more questions in. I just have to address, or maybe I should let Nicole, maybe Nicole can address it. There are just so many comments across all the chats which are saying, Memphis is doing Nicole's shitty podcast, because you said in the HOH, I don't know why you're making that face, Nicole. You're the one who explained it to me.
Okay, so this was...
Go ahead.
I wasn't sure that I don't know that they showed that. So I'm assuming that they did show that.
They did, but here, I don't think you're allowed to say it, Memphis. So let me just say what I think happened. Ready? That I think people... Yes, that Nicole told me she thinks. Because, and this is another example of how I think people see stuff on the feeds and they think it's one thing and it's something like totally different. Yeah. So maybe it was people get called to the diary room to make fun of everybody's comics so that they have little like blurbs that they can throw out. And then your joke was, I'm not doing that shitty podcast, which I'm sure is what everyone's joke was. Enzo's made the air. But like, go ahead.
So I'll tell you exactly what I said. And I said, well,
oh no, we have the clip.
You know how it is with the comics. Like your goal in the DR is just to rip people apart. Like that's it. Like that's really the whole point. So you try to like come up with clever shit that like you think is going to be funny, which I'm sure people take way too personal and and they get offended. I said it'll be a cold day in hell before I do Nicole Ace podcast, and I have no problem. I said it. I'm a straightforward shooter.
Oh, the devil just pulled.
Ooh, pigs are flying.
I'm a straight shooter. I will definitely tell you what I said, and that's what I said. So
look, and
when I reached out to you through DM, I said, "Hey, Memphis, it's Nicole. Do you want to be on my shitty podcast?"
And I will say this about you, Memphis, that I have said this to everyone. Obviously we do a lot of shows like during the week, and people have said like, ooh, you're having Memphis on. Oh, that's going to be awkward. And, I have said, and I know that Nicole has agreed with, we were like, Memphis has been one of the easiest, most like easiest to talk to, responsive, like respectable person to us in regards to this show, that I was like, I'm loving Real World Memphis is my point. I think there's the game and then there's real life. And I always say we should give people the chance to see who they really are in the real world. So I
will second that sentiment wholeheartedly, that yes, you said and did things in the house that I didn't condone, that you've been apologetic for and you've spoken about, but you're one of the people postseason who was very respectful in responding to us and very receptive, and oh yeah, absolutely, I can do this. And I know that speaks volumes. Real world. Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, I mean, people are going to make their assumptions about me. Unfortunately, you know, they get the edited version and they get a version that they attach a narrative to. And look, there's things that I've did in the house that I obviously, you know, wish I didn't do or say. And ultimately, like, I'm not a bad guy. And if anyone, I like to say I'm an acquired taste, but once you get to know me, I'm a good time, and I mean no harm or ill will. And I, you know, it really showed me, like I told you, like, and you guys got these messages and crazy stuff. It's like, it's sad. I'm really sad that people say things like that to anyone. And I'm sad for the people that say them, because it's a reflection on them. And like, it's tough that people are going through such hard things in their life where ultimately they feel like it's okay to tell someone that I wish them dead. Like I like, it's really, really heartbreaking that people feel that way, or that they can say that or anything. Because I'll tell you, like, in my life, like, I have my family, I have my son, I have my businesses, and that's what I do. And I try to be straightforward in my life, and ultimately I'm not perfect. That's for damn sure. But I promise you, I'm not a bad guy, and I'm the utmost respectable person I think that you'll meet. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Like, you know, it was weird. Like, when I got off the first season, like, I wasn't a big fan of like talking about the show, but for some reason, like, I actually enjoy talking about it, and I had a really, really good time. And I had way more fun this year than I did season 10. And I told Dan that. He's like, "What do you mean, man?" I think he got a little butthurt about it. But I was like, "No, dude, I just did." I was like, I just feel like I connected more with the people. I feel like it was just a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys having me on. And I really, you know, it was a good time for sure.
Well, we loved having you on. It was good to have people hear what you have to say live about some of those topics.
Absolutely.
So we very much appreciate that.
I feel like we should end like another very serious question. JP from New Jersey wants to know who wins in a fight, Memphis or Danny's hat? We need to know.
Probably Danny's hat, man. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Danny and her hats. I hope that she makes it on here and she gets to bring all of her hats. Memphis, what you know, we want to give you the final word here. What do you want to say to your fans? What do you want to say to people who have come out here to hear what you have to say?
I want to say, look, I appreciate everyone's support and everyone that was a fan and followed me through the season, and everyone that respected the game that I played. I really, really appreciate that. And I've gotten a lot for all the crazy stuff and messages I've gotten. I've got way more love and way more respect and awesome texts and support. And look, my Instagram is my name, Memphis Garrett. Hit me up. I'll try. Like, at this point, I'm responding to everyone. I'm giving people, you know, I can talk, answer questions, whatever. I'm available. I love this game, and I'm grateful that I got to play again, and I'm grateful that I got to play with you, Nicole. And like, you know, unfortunately, it didn't go the way that you planned.
So you had fun this season. If I was there, you would have had so much more fun. You know, whatever.
But I do appreciate the fans, and I appreciate, you know, the show, and I think it's one of those things where it's very, very tough to explain what we go through by being on camera 24 hours a day and locked in a house with nothing outside world. And it's very tough to compare it to anything. And I do say this: if anyone ever gets the opportunity to play this game and go through that experience, do it, because it's effed up, but it's definitely worth doing.
Okay. Okay. And of course, you know, like we said, if you guys are watching this back or need the links to any of Memphis's social medias, they will be below this video on our website, hellofriendspod.com. You can find all of his social medias, restaurants, anything you need to know about Memphis will all be in the show notes below this video, really wherever you are watching it. Of course, if you guys share the show, now that it's over, that helps us a lot too. And Nicole, what are your final thoughts?
Oh man, final thoughts in general is to everybody. You know, you watch a game, you watch characters in a game, and I think every day is a new day. And Memphis is here saying he's apologetic about certain things, saying he's spoken to David, spoken to Ian, and that's what's most important, is moving forward and being communicative. That's the most important thing. That's what we all have right now. I'll take it from Melanie in the chat. Thank you for coming on and not being gay Memphis and being a better, real version of real Memphis. It's been great to see. And yeah, I really appreciate you being a very straight shooting, respectful person in the real world, and it's greatly appreciated.
Of course, guys, of course.
And of course, he's very sorry he didn't work with you, Nicole. That's the takeaway, so that I don't have to hear you saying that anymore. We'll see you guys all on the next show. We're live with Enzo tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Bye, everybody. Bye, guys.